All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Edge of the Earth podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Jarman of The Jeff Jarman Show, which you can find on YouTube. You can also find us at www.jeffjarman.tk. Jarman is the last name, Jeff Jarman. Find us on Spreaker. You can also subscribe on iTunes. If you follow us on Spreaker first, that would help the most, but also you can subscribe on iTunes and listen on the go, wherever you happen to be. Today I am doing a solo episode. I kind of had this come to me last night. I was talking to a friend of mine, Skylar, who was actually on the last episode, and it was right as I was going to sleep, and I actually happened to see a post from him talking about how if he didn't have to sleep, he just wouldn't, because he feels like it's a waste of time. And I kind of, in the past, have felt the same way. I feel like I can get more done if I'm awake for those extra 2 hours or whatever, if I can just cut down to the minimum amount of sleep. Seems like I could get so much more accomplished because there's never enough time in the day. I think most people would agree with that. So last night, I was just kind of thinking about that, and I was, laying down in bed and just kind of listening to the dull noise that the fan was making in the background. Some people like to have a little bit of noise as they fall asleep, and I'm one of those people. And just a dim light off in the corner of the room, and everything was quiet. And it was such a weird thing, just staring up at the ceiling, and you think about how it's almost like the rest of the world is just gone when you're laying in bed, and that's your entire existence in that one moment. Whereas, when you're awake, you've got all this stuff going through your mind, and you're thinking about so many things and all the bills you have to pay and all your responsibilities with work. But when you're in bed, you don't think about any of that stuff. You just you relax and you detach. You detach from the world. And it's a really interesting thing. So I decided that I was going to dig into this a little bit and find out, exactly what was going on. Now, what's kind of interesting is that in the U.S., 40% of people get less than the recommended amount of sleep. On average, most Americans sleep about 6.8 hours every night. That's compared now to the 11% of Americans who used to get less than the recommended amount of sleep 70 years ago. But 70 years ago, we didn't have probably quite as much to do or quite as many forms of entertainment. I even read a statistic, I think it was that people on average sleep over 20 years of their lifespan. And that's roughly, the other statistic would be that they sleep 1/3 of their entire life. So let's think about what happens when you go to sleep, or scientifically, let's go over what exactly happens. So when you first fall asleep, you enter NREM sleep, which is non-rapid eye movement sleep, and that has 4 stages. So stage 1 is between being awake and falling asleep. It's kind of a light sleep. Stage 2 is the onset of sleep, becoming disengaged from surroundings. Your breathing and your heart rate are regular at this point, and your body temperature begins to drop. So sleeping in a cooler room is actually helpful for that. Then stage 3 and 4, that's the deepest and most restorative sleep. Blood pressure drops, breathing becomes slower, muscles are relaxed, blood supply to the muscles increases, tissue growth and repair occurs. That's working on the rest of your body, your muscles and stuff like that. Energy is restored, and actually hormones are released, such as a growth hormone, which is essential for growth and development, including muscle development. And then after that, we enter REM sleep, which is about 25% of the night. This first occurs about 90 minutes after falling asleep and recurs every other 90 minutes, getting longer later in the night. It provides energy to the brain and body, supports daytime performance. Your brain's active at this point, and that's when you have dreams. Your eyes dart back and forth, which is a little bit creepy if you think about it. Your body becomes immobile and relaxed. The muscles are turned off, and that kind of thing, so that you don't get up and sleepwalk or run and jump out your window or whatever. In addition, levels of the hormone cortisol dip at bedtime and increase over the night to promote alertness in the morning. Basically, sleep helps us thrive by contributing to a healthy immune system as well, and can also balance our appetites by helping to regulate the levels of hormones ghrelin and leptin, which play a role in our feelings of hunger and fullness. So when we're sleep deprived, we may eat more, which can lead to weight gain. So basically, the 1/3 of our lives that we spend sleeping are far from unproductive, like I had previously thought. I mean, it still kind of feels a little unproductive, but if you really need it that much, I guess we pretty much have to do it. So now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about what actually happens to the individual parts of the body when you fall asleep. And a lot of this comes from the Daily Mail UK website by an article from Angela Epstein of the Daily Mail. So basically, I already went over the 4 stages of the sleep, the NREM sleep, but to go a little bit more into it, a typical night's sleep comprises of these 5 cycles, the 4 NREM, and then the REM sleep itself. During the first stage of sleep, brain waves are small undulations. During stage 2, these intersperse with electrical signals called spindles, or sleep spindles, small bursts of activity lasting a couple of seconds which keep us in a state of quiet readiness. As stage 2 merges into stage 3, the brain waves continue to deepen into larger, slow waves. The larger and slower the brain wave, the deeper the sleep. Stage 4 is reached when 50% of the brain waves are slow. At this point, we're not taxed mentally, and about 40% of the usual blood flow that goes to the brain is diverted to the muscles to restore energy. However, during the REM sleep that follows, there's a high level of brain activity. This is the stage associated with dreaming and triggered by the pons, P-O-N-S, the part of the brain stem that relays the nerve impulses between the spinal cord and the brain, and neighboring structures. The pons send signals to the thalamus and to the cerebral cortex, which is responsible for most thought processes. It also sends signals to turn off motor neurons in the spinal cord, causing temporary paralysis, and so preventing us from acting upon our dreams. Basically, if you wake up and you have sleep paralysis, that's when that hasn't actually been turned off yet. You kind of woke out of your sleep too quickly, and so your brain hasn't released your body and let it move again, basically. REM sleep is thought to help consolidate memory and emotion, as at this point in sleep, blood flow rises sharply in several brain areas linked to processing memories and emotional experiences. In areas involving complex reasoning and language, blood flow declines. So basically, I wonder if when you go through your experiences during the day, if you don't get a good night's sleep that night, then maybe those memories aren't planted as deeply in your mind as they could be. And so, 10 years from then, you might not remember it very well. There's a lot of memories like that. They fade over time, it seems like, but still. Maybe the more sleep, the more you remember. I don't know. So for the eyes, they're covered by eyelids, obviously, but the movement of the eyes denotes the different stages of sleep. On first falling into semi-consciousness, the eyes roll, which is kind of weird as well. But as we move deeper into sleep, rapid eye movement occurs, which, that's the REM, and the eyes twitch and dart about. That is really creepy. This REM sleep occurs in about 90 minutes, as I covered earlier. That's when most dreaming is done. Brain activity is high at that point. The muscles in the body are relaxed to the point of virtual paralysis. Some experts suggest that this is a device to allow the mind to explore the realms of subconsciousness without acting upon events occurring in the dreams. Melatonin is a hormone that's produced to help us sleep, secreted by the pineal gland, I'm not sure. Deep in the brain, it helps control body rhythm and sleep-wake cycles. Levels of melatonin rise as the body temperature falls to encourage feelings of sleepiness. So I think maybe if you have trouble going to sleep, maybe you don't have enough melatonin. I don't know. The immune system is actually very important in the sleep cycle. This may be due to the increase in the immune system's production of certain proteins during sleep, as the levels of certain agents which fight disease rise during sleep and drop when we're awake. Getting enough sleep can help resist infection, actually, as some studies of healthy young adults have shown that moderate amounts of sleep deprivation reduce the levels of white blood cells, which form the major part of the body's defense system. A cancer killer called TNF, tumor necrosis factor, also pumps through our veins when we're asleep. Research has shown that people who stayed up until 3 a.m. had 1/3 fewer cells containing TNF the next day, and that the effectiveness of those that were remaining was greatly reduced. Just as the world is governed by light and dark, human beings also have an inbuilt body clock called the circadian rhythm, which, have you ever woke up kind of like you knew you had to wake up at 7 a.m., and even if your alarm didn't go off for sure, sometimes you'll jolt awake at like 6:50 or right at 7 or 7:03. It's like that internal body clock, and I guess that's what that would be. Housed in the hypothalamus at the base of the brain, it causes 24-hour fluctuations in many bodily activities. Another fun fact, they just recently did an experiment where they had people go to sleep in caves. And you could actually sleep for about 36 hours in a cave. If you never see daylight, after about a month down there, your body cycle changes. And so it's totally different. You could actually sleep way too long, and you have symptoms of depression coming on and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty interesting how our universe, how the solar system, the time it creates actually affects our body and sleeping and everything else. I guess it's part of the naturally evolving process. So here's an interesting one, breathing. When we fall asleep, throat muscles relax, so the throat gets narrower each time we inhale. Snoring occurs when the throat is narrowed to a slit, and parts of the airway vibrate because of a resistance to breathing. Air is forced through the narrow air passage, causing the soft palate and uvula to vibrate. Those who snore are more likely to have poor muscle tone in the throat and tongue, which allows the tongue to fall backward into the airways. That's kind of a scary thought. Being overweight or having large tonsils and adenoids also contribute to snoring. However, impaired breathing during sleep can cause a condition called sleep apnea, which is a pretty scary one. I know a lot of people are aware of this one. Often caused by fat buildup, poor muscle tone, or aging, sleep apnea causes the windpipe to collapse when the muscles relax during sleep. This blocks the airflow from 10 seconds to a minute while the person struggles for breath. When the person's blood oxygen falls, the brain responds by making the person tighten the upper airway muscles and open the windpipe. This will result in a snort or a gasp before snoring is resumed. Saliva is needed to lubricate the mouth for eating during the day, but at sleep it's reduced. There's not as much saliva in your mouth at night, so that's why you have a dry mouth in the morning. However, the mouth can be very active during sleep, as 1 in 20 adults unconsciously grind their teeth at night, which that's why some people need those mouth guards, obviously. This is known as bruxism and occurs mainly during stages 1 and 2 of sleep. It is caused by poor alignment of the teeth within the jaw, but it is also thought to be a nighttime relief for daytime stresses. So if you're really stressed out all the time during the day, you might grind your teeth at night because you're so stressed out. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Well, actually, it's probably pretty obviously a bad thing. So let's move on to your muscles. A person can change their sleeping position about 35 times a night. I think I do that, if not more. The muscles of the body remain relaxed. This gives the chance for tissues to be repaired and restored. However, studies indicate that muscles might receive just as much relaxation and repair during simple rest periods, and the state of unconsciousness is not needed for this to take place. So, take a break at work. Feel better? Maybe, kind of, not really. I don't know. My feet hurt all day, it seems like. The heart rate goes down between 10 and 30 beats per minute when we sleep. This produces a decline in blood pressure, which occurs during a restful sleep. During rest, blood flows from the brain, distends arteries, and makes the limbs bigger. Some scientists believe that fatigue-induced sleep may be a mild form of blood detoxification, so that would be a good thing. This is because during the day, debris broken down from tissues is thrown into the bloodstream, which, that's kind of a scary thought. In the waking state, most of the waste will be eliminated through the lungs, kidneys, bowels, and skin. But there could be a saturation point, so nature warns us to reduce these waste products to replenish lost energy, and that causes us to get tired and sleep naturally. During sleep, the cells and tissues that break down to produce toxic waste become less active. This gives a chance for broken down tissue to be rebuilt. So, lastly, let's cover the digestive system. The body requires a regular amount of energy as its key source of glucose. This is constantly burned to release energy for muscle contraction, nerve impulses, and regulating body temperature. But when we sleep, our need for this energy reserves is marginal, so the digestive system slows to a sluggish pace. The immobility of our bodies promotes this. For this reason, eating late at night is not recommended, as our inactive state will prevent enzymes and stomach acids from converting it to energy. And that's why you end up feeling bloated in the mornings or whenever. But anyway, that is the main deal as far as sleep is concerned. There's a lot that goes on when you go to sleep, and it's very important. I can't remember if I covered it earlier, but it is thought that people who sleep less than the recommended amount actually have a shorter lifespan. So if you sleep less, you'll be awake more, and you might experience a little bit more life. But in the end, your lifespan is shorter, possibly. So I guess you have to decide if it's really worth it or not. I don't know if it evens out somehow or what, but Anyway, I guess we'll just have to suffer and sleep for now. But then some people love sleep, so. But hopefully now, when you go to bed tonight, you will be able to understand a little bit more about what your body's doing, and be calm in the fact that your eyes are probably rolling in the back of your head or darting back and forth while you're asleep and not aware of it. So there's that to look forward to. Thank you all for listening. This has been the Edge of the Earth podcast. Again, I'm Jeff Jarman. Check out our friends over at the hcwpodcast.tk. It's a pro wrestling podcast. If you like WWE, you will like this podcast. Again, please follow us on Spreaker. You can sign in through Facebook. It's super easy. Doesn't cost you anything. You don't get spammed or anything like that. And it helps me out very, very much. I really just need to get 100 followers. That's all I'm trying to do, because then they upgrade your plan and I can keep making more episodes. But if I hit that wall, if I hit the data limit before I get 100 followers, then I don't know what I'll be able to do. I might have to stop making podcasts. So anyway, if you want more information like this, and that's one of my goals, is to help teach people as well as entertain them as they listen to the podcast. That's just why I do this, is I love the subjects, I love the paranormal, and I know that a lot of other people love it as well, and they don't always have the time to research these subjects. And so maybe if you have it in audio form and it's presented to you in an entertaining way, you'll get to experience this as well. So anyway, thank you all for listening, and I will see you next week right here at the Edge of the Earth.